we're dealing with probably about 1,000 power outages from what we could tell from the Duke outage map around the Charlotte Metro. Logan's joining us right now via Zoom, so thank you so much for your time, Logan. Were you able to get Logan over? Wonderful. Okay. So tell us how are things are looking from your perspective, and what are your crews up to at this hour?
Yeah, we've hung in there for most of the day. We do have this pocket right now of about 900 that we're seeing out in the Monroe Matthews area. That is an isolated equipment issue, and we do sometimes in these extreme weather situations we can see those. And so we're going to dispatch some crews out to get that fixed. But those pockets can happen, especially as we see the high winds, and again, the snow as it continues to accumulate. I think the important thing to know is that, we dealt with ice last weekend. Ice is a lot more difficult when it comes to power outages than snow is. So this dry snow, it's a good thing. So as we see these pockets, we're going to get out there and get those fixed.
With us having back-to-back winter storms like last weekend, I know y'all were pretty busy, and this weekend now we're dealing with concerns again. How are you dealing with staffing? I mean, your crews have obviously been working a lot, and the resources I'm sure are getting stretched a bit.
Yeah, a couple of things. I think it's important to remember that Duke Energy does have a detailed plan to manage the power grid in extreme conditions and extreme weather. And so we're working that plan last weekend and this weekend. Also throughout the year, we've been performing grid improvements across our service areas. And one of those improvements is self-healing technology, which helps reroute customers on a line that experiences a failure to a different line. And so that right now is serving about 75% of our customers across the Carolinas and helped save approximately 1.4 million outages last year. But, all of these grid improvements are helping keep the lights on. And as we do see these pockets of outages, if they happen, we're going to get crews out as it is safe to do so.
Now, I know that there's a lot of cooperation. For example, I lived in Florida for a period of time. I actually had Duke Energy when I was in Florida, too,
Yes.
like in the Tampa area. So I remember, when we'd be dealing with hurricanes, crews would be staging from up north down in our area. And I remember, I believe it was this last time, there might have been crews from point south that came up here to help us. Are y'all involved with any efforts elsewhere? And I only ask because I know like Nashville, for example, has been so hard hit, and I know that they're still even trying to get power back on. Do you have your crews kind of elsewhere, in addition to Charlotte, where you're helping folks try to get their lights back on?
So that's called mutual aid. And so right now, just because we have had these back-to-back storms, we are not participating in any mutual aid right now just because we need our teams here. So we have kept our crews in their native areas where they live and work every day. And so they are able to respond. And within the Duke Energy footprint, we can shift our resources as we need to. So that's kind of our primary focus right now. Beyond that, certainly when there are other areas that have these extreme situations, Helene is a great example. We can, share resources, and likewise, they will come here to help us. Even just last week, we had crews here from 40 different states in the province of Canada. And while that ice storm was not as impactful, as we thought it was going to be, it's still great just to have those resources available when we need them.
Now, the other element that I think about, the cold temperatures essentially that we're dealing with obviously right now, but even colder potentially, it sounds like, with some folks that might be seeing single digits, as we go into the coming days. How do you expect that to impact, if anything, the power grid, energy usage? I'm sure folks will probably be cranking up their heaters more if they're able to do that. Any concerns with the actual grid itself or just energy usage amongst customers?
Right now, all of our operating units are online. They're good to go. We don't anticipate any issues serving customers. That said, I know that bills can be a concern for folks, as just increasing costs are in general. So I think, if you log on to duke-energy.com/storm tips, we have some great tips there as far as storm preparation, saving money. One simple thing you can do at home is, I know it's cold, but the lower you can bump your thermostat down, that accounts for approximately 50% of your bill. So that's just one great way that you can save on your bill. But definitely check out that website for other tips.
All right. We appreciate it so much. Logan Stewart with Duke Energy. Thanks for your time and for all your crew's hard work, back to back. I know that's the weekends have been pretty trying lately, so hopefully we get a reprieve soon.